last week was a lot. And similarly, Harley is like, there's something going on, but I don't quite know what it is. But I feel okay with like figuring it out with him and not trying to overthink it and figure out what it could be when I don't know.
I feel so empowered by the way she does things and how she is showing what an athlete can be. And I think, to be honest, I think there should be less horses doing the sport at that top level, because there are less horses that are that capable. Hello everybody, happy Wednesday. It's podcast day. Hope you're all doing well. How you doing, Ree?
I'm good, thanks. I'm actually just tying my hair up. Does anybody else have this where they can't concentrate if they don't have the hair up? I do the podcast with my hair down, but if I'm working, I find it really hard to work with my hair down. You probably don't have this issue because you work on a yard.
Well, my hair is just permanently up.
Yeah.
All the time. But I do, if a rogue tangent to start with, but I have recently learned that my hair is actually incredibly curly. And so if I let it air dry naturally, if I then tie it up, I then basically look like Hagrid. And it forms this sort of mat. It's really unmanageable. So it's like blow dry my hair and put heat in it. This isn't very interesting, is it? Blow dry it and put heat in it, but be able to tie it up and not look like Hagrid's beard, or let it be curly and let it be nice for like a day. But then it's just a bit of a nightmare. So if you see me with a bun on my head, it's probably because my hair's curly underneath and I get these bits that don't look at the back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like business in the front, disaster in the back.
Well, final part of this tangent is that I have for years tried to do what they did to my hair at the hairdressers, and I'm like, is it the shampoo? Is it the conditioner? It's a serum. That is the answer. In the last year, I always use Heat Protect, but now I use a serum, and it's made so much difference. So that's the answer. If you're like, why won't my hair look like it does after the hairdressers? It's probably serum. There you go. How's your week been?
Hair advice with Miri and I. How's my week been? Well, it's rained a bit.
Yes.
Hallelujah. I feel like we could do a few of those, couldn't we? You know,
raining, hallelujah. Isn't that the trend at the moment?
Yeah, the Bieber song. Yeah. Think I've named my cats. Hallelujah.
Oh, what did you go for?
I think they're going to be called Pan and Apollo.
Pan? Is that a planet?
Frying pan.
Miri.
No, obviously not frying pan.
Oh, okay.
For goodness sake.
Well, I never know with you.
Pan.
Is it a Greek mythology thing?
Yes.
Isn't Pan from Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream?
Yes. Also, it's from lots of different things. It's
Literature
from lots of
degree.
So I don't actually think I can say the whole name, but it's Pantalaimon. Pantalaimon. So
okay.
Lyra Blackwell is an orphan raised at Jordan College with her daemon Pantalaimon, or Pan. It's from Northern Lights, from his Dark Materials.
Pan is also not in Midsummer Night's Dream, it's Puck.
Oh.
And that's me being like, yeah, literature degree. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
No, and I'm there talking about a, fictional book. Anyway, so Pan is also a Greek god, I think, potentially.
It's Greek something.
Is Greek. And Apollo is, so obviously my cat Lyra, so her daemon, which is like her little mate that goes around with her all the time, which is part of her soul, is called Pan.
From the Northern Lights.
From the Northern Lights. And then Lyra is also a constellation in the sky, stars.
Yeah.
And it's something to do with a magical instrument which Zeus gives to Apollo, is a lyre. And I think Apollo is Lyra's brother.
Okay.
It's tenuous, I have to say.
You really thought about this. This is better than Kardashian. This is really in depth.
Better than Sam and Ella. Well, I really wanted them to have lovely names. Cats live a very long time, and I didn't want it to be something, I'm going to have these cats till I'm 50.
You don't want them to be like fluffy.
No. Exactly. And like George was like, let's call one of them Guinness because he loves Guinness, you know, the drink. And I was like,
No.
no, George.
Veto.
What? What did you say?
Veto. It's like an
Oh,
Americanism. Yeah.
anyway, this has got off to a really unhinged start, but also lovely. I've been just spending lots of time with them. Like I ate my breakfast with them today, and like they just come and sit on me,
Cute.
and it's adorable. And then they wrestle hilariously, so they are really good fun, and they're doing really well. In terms of my own horses, I'm just to be full transparency. I feel like I'm getting it really wrong with the management of my horses at the moment.
Okay.
Blondie
Say more.
is definitely not happy. She is struggling. I don't know where or why, and I find that very hard with her because I can't just call a vet and be like, let's look at her, because I've done that before. And if you like make her lunge, she is often full of adrenaline, and that's very difficult. And then I see her trot in the field and I think, well, she looks very good. And then, but she's really angry. She's not happy. I went to do some groundwork with her, and it was like she came into season, but she's literally just had her improvac. So that's one horse I'm definitely missing the mark on. I don't know what's not right. It's been since we moved. She's just angry.
In what, like, say it in a non Miri who knows Blondie way, like layman's.
Like
What's
I
she
can't
doing?
brush her.
Oh.
She like squeals at me. I can't ask her questions. She's really over her limit. Everything is too scary. Like, and it seems to be the longer we've been here, the more that she's gone in that direction. And Zora's feeling her feet. And we've obviously moved to totally different grass that I haven't managed for a long time. So I'm trying to work out what to do there. And it's hard because maybe other people would just carry on. I don't know. But it's very difficult. I find myself in this difficult position where I know a lot about what a horse is telling you. And I feel like they're giving me a lot of information, and it's very hard to know what to do with that information as such. Like,
Yeah.
I had a long conversation actually this evening with my surgeon vet, the vet at Rossdale's, and he was really helpful. And I spoke to him about Belle because she's 10 now and she still has slightly slipping stifles some of the time. And that's are some studies done now, he said, but I just feel like I don't know, like I have had so many things to look after moving here, like the renovation, the change, the management of all of these different horses. It's so much. And I feel like often my own horses are the ones that have to be down the list.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've gathered quite the collection of horses, and I don't know, I don't have enough hours in the day. And a lot of people, it sounds like a great problem to have, but a lot of people want and need my help. And I love that that is where I've got to, but it also comes at a bit of a price, basically.
Do you think any of your feeling, and this is not based on anything, I'm curious, is based on the fact that you're like, oh, other people will think, what will other people think, because I'm this big horse professional now and I train horses, but my own horses aren't right? Because I feel like there was a conversation we had where you said that, I'm sure it was on the podcast, where you were like, you know, I'm supposed to be the trainer and yet my own horses aren't quite there. Or do you think it's just you being like, my own horses aren't there, and it's a personal thing, it's not connected to your business?
I don't feel any pressure that my own horses have to be something, because the reality is the reason that they aren't something isn't because of something I have directly done, but it is also because maybe things are changing and there's fluctuation and we've moved to this new place. And interestingly, I think that the dynamic shift is a big part of that, like the just being on different grazing, being in different like field setups is a part of it. And I'm not dealing with straightforward horses. Every single one of my horses has physical things that are not my doing. Zora was born with chips in her fetlocks, or developed chips in her fetlocks, so she had to have those removed. So she has always struggled with that. At some point through her time with me, she has developed some sort of EMSE system in her body, but I've been doing my research on that, and I've just sent off an equibiome test, actually, which is very interesting. It's like like Zoe for horses.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing my research, and they have this cool document that they send you, or actually that you request. And I was reading it this morning, and it's like, there is not very much literature, but we are starting to see this correlation between horses that have biome dysfunction and EMS laminitis, because they're not processing what they're eating properly. Now, when I bought Zora, she was eating oats and haylage. That was it. So did I buy a horse with a problematic gut that even this many years later, I haven't fixed it because I didn't know I needed to fix it? Yeah. And I think the thing that I think I'm struggling with the most is, you would probably come and see my horses. Okay, maybe Blondie, it would be clear that Blondie is not having the greatest time on earth, but you'd probably be like, Zora seems fine. What do you mean? Oh, Belle, okay, maybe then I noticed that her stifle did that funny thing every now and then, but it's because I spend all my time looking for these little nuances, this whole horse image. When I see my own horses, I'm like, oh, that could be different. That could be better. And that's just it's hard. I don't feel like I'm 100% getting it right 100% of the time. And I think it also comes from a place of being self-critical, or like very, very self-aware, rather than it being like,
external.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think that's very normal.
Yes.
I think when you're someone who actively looks to learn, looks to know more and more about horses, like, of course you're going to notice more and more things, and like, of course you're going to then, it's going to keep you not up at night, but you know what I mean, you're going to think about it more. And I think it would be crazy if a horse was perfect all of the time. So I just wanted to validate that feeling.
No, and it's a bit like that conversation that you and I had last week about Harley, and me saying, would you consider asking the vet? And actually, it brought up a lot for me, because I was like, what am I avoiding things? And some of the things that if I was to ask the vet about, they absolutely wouldn't be insured. Blondie's not insured, because that would be complicated, because you can't ask the vet to do very much with her. Yeah. So it's like I'm in this difficult position where also financially then I'm thinking, well, to go and do lots of investigation after a potentially small query, that's just a lot of things in my head. And it was interesting, I saw an osteopath, my osteo today, because I put my back out at the gym the other day, and then afterwards I had therapy, and afterwards I needed a nap. Right. And when I had this nap, it was like my brain was buffering, like it was filtering. It was like, it was kind of half, but I was like half dreaming, half not dreaming. It was like this kind of weird, like cycling of stuff. And I felt a lot better afterwards, because it was like my brain was going through a filtering system, like, we don't need that. We do need this. We So I'm also then, I'm battling my own burnout, and it's a bloody lot, mate.
Yeah.
Welcome to the inside of my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's the inside of your brain? How are you doing?
No, I'm okay. I'm okay. Last week was a lot. And similarly, Harley is like, there's something going on, but I don't quite know what it is. And he's been, as we spoke about last week, he's been not doing ridden work, just doing in-hand stuff lately, because we've been in between, we had the physio, and she was like, he's quite sore, let's give him 10 days off. And she said, after 4 days, lunge him and send me videos. So I took him in the school yesterday, and I had him loose, actually, while I set up these poles that we were going to go over, raised poles. And he offered me, he actually trotted around with me for a little bit, which was really cute. And then he offered me a right rein lunge circle loose, and I was like, oh, this is cool. So I was having a little look at him, and I thought, oh, I'll just do it on the other rein as well. And when I tried to turn him to the left, he was like, no, it's okay, and went back to the right rein. And I was like, that's really interesting. So then I asked what I thought was a bit more clearly. I was like, how about also to the left? And he just turned back to the right again. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Just something I noted. Anyway, when it came to actually lunging, did my left rein lunge, and he's very easy to lunge, like straightforward.
Did your right rein lunge?
Oh, sorry, did my right rein lunge, yes. He walks out on the lunge. He'll walk on the lunge for ages. I know some horses that you like, as soon as you put them on the lunge, they want to trot. He'll walk for ages. He trotted, he cantered, he came back down through the gears, easy. Onto the left rein, loads of resistance. He's turning in. He reared up at me a couple of times, only little ones, but his little...
Yeah, I was going to say, I just will interject. I've seen these videos. Yeah. It makes it sound quite bad. He is just a bit like quietly being like, I'd rather not. So he's not like screaming in Ree's face. Don't worry, everyone.
No.
Don't feel like, you know, I just want to say that because I know that you're really hard on yourself. And I know that this whole process, you know, we're both being very like vulnerable, really, talking about our own horses. And I think it's important to give some like nuance, you know, to understand how nuanced this is. Like,
yeah, no, these aren't rears like they were at camp where he really was standing up. They're like barely off the ground, and he's like tossing his head and he's turning into me. And when I ask him to go out, he's kind of kicking out half-heartedly, like really just saying no. And I stopped a couple of times and I kind of went up to him and I was like, I know that you're saying no. I was like, but could you try? Because I need to show the physio. And it's a weird one because he's not lame, but he's obviously uncomfortable. And so we're getting the physio out next week again, which we were due to do. And then we're just going to see whether it's a vet thing. I did originally actually have the vet in. And then I thought, oh, is it the right thing to have a vet appointment? What are they even going to say? They're probably going to say, if we're honest, bring him back into work and call me if he changes. But what you said actually was interesting, was like, it might not be that big, but he knows that you're going to listen. So he's like, I'm going to show you that I'm a little bit uncomfortable. And it's a weird one because he's himself. He's kind and he's joyful and he's bright and he's playful. So it's a weird sort of, I don't quite know what's going on, but I feel okay with like figuring it out with him and not trying to overthink it and figure out what it could be when I don't know.
I think the really important thing to say is what you're not doing is having the physio and carrying on riding him, which is very, very key. Like same with my own horses, right? I'm just tootling along. I'm not doing anything exciting with Blondie. I will just go back to ground working her. I won't, I'm not going to suddenly like go full steam ahead. Like this is what it is to have horses. And I was talking to one of my really close friends today, and their pony's hurt himself. Sprained his ankle, essentially, annular ligament sprain. And she said, I feel so bad because the vet originally said one thing and now they've said another. Her daughter's like 9. And she was like, it's so hard to explain it to her. And I said to her, I'm going to be brutal here, but the sooner she learns that this is the reality of horses, the better. Yeah. When we learn that they are not just there to serve us, they are not just there to do a job for us, they are there as their own being, the better. Because if she can understand that, she will appreciate when she does get to ride, when she does get to go to a jump rally and go to pony club camp. Because I do think we can go a long time owning horses, not really realising that it's bigger than just getting on their back and riding them, It's everything. It's the relationship, it's the communicate, it's that actually is the thing we cherish. And I know you get that. It's difficult. It's complicated, isn't it? But,
it really is.
I need to take a moment to thank one of the sponsors of this episode, Jelka. Now, I have been partnering with Jelka for a few of the items that I have chosen for my yard, and one of them has been our water drinkers. Now, just skip forward, because you might say, well, why is this relevant? Well, I have had my fair share of problems when it comes to water drinkers, and what our horses are drinking out of is actually very important. Their hydration is a really important part of their care, and having a clean, organised, safe, consistent, well-working system of hydration is actually very important. The drinkers that we chose are very solid. they can be bolted to each other through a wall, which you think, well, why is that relevant? Well, it's meant that our pipes were easier to fit. Our plumbing was more straightforward. And we have now got this lovely setup where the horses have really consistent, not dripping, well-made, simple to use drinkers. I can adjust them myself. I don't need a plumber to come in and fix them. They don't leak, and they are very big and open, so it means that the horse can fit their whole muzzle in really nicely, which encourages them to drink more. They're not made of plastic, so it means that they are nice and solid, so if the horses bump into them, they're not going to be cracked or damaged. And it means that then we don't have like these awful leaky damp corners in our stables. We purposefully fitted our drinkers to the fronts of the stables because I didn't want there to be sort of this damp corner in a stable where the drinker was over the bedding, because horses do splash about in them. But it's meant that because they work really well and they're really well fitted, it means that we don't get any leakage, and they really are doing what we want them to do, and it means that the horses always have a lovely, easy to access source of water. They've also got plugs at the bottom, which means that they're easy to open and clean, and it's just meant that our horses have got a better source of water all the time. If you ask my dad, these are a absolute league above all of the other drinkers that we've had in the past. All we did at the other yard was fix the badly fitted, poorly made drinkers, and the systems inside were so complicated you needed a degree to be able to fix them, whereas now both myself and my team are able to just do what we need to do if we need to do it. Up until this point we have not had to do any fixing of the drinkers, which has been great. Jelka has a really wide range of products that you can go and look at. I've talked about the rubber matting, I've talked about our arena leveler, and now I'm talking about the drinkers. We are very fortunate to partner with Jelka, and you can find all of the details about all of the products that they offer on their website, which is in the show notes. Okay, back to the podcast.
So we had a few things to talk about today. One of them was I wanted to give everyone an update on the data from Equestrian Money Diaries, which I will explain forthwith. So this is a project I set up years ago because I'm such a nerd. Basically, I felt like when I became a horse owner, I spent a long time trying to budget for it and figure out the budget and do that with good welfare in mind. And it's a really tricky one because everybody knows how important it is, but nobody wants to say how much they actually spend because it feels uncomfortable and, you know, it's private and all of those things. So I set up this anonymous Google form where people could fill out their costs, and I've done it for years now. And although I haven't really promoted it this year as much, I wanted to give an update on the cost changes that I've seen in 2026 versus 2025, because I've now had, over the years, thousands from all over the world, but I'm focusing on the UK here.
So many Type A people. More Type A people than we think.
Yeah, I mean, I have an Excel now. I remember vividly the 2024 Christmas period. I spent hours in Excel and with an LLM actually, figuring out formulas to get like averages and versus last year and stuff like that. So now it self-populates from the form, which is just really cool. So anyone can go in there and look at the data, and it's broken down by region, by country, versus last year. It's really cool. I'm really proud of it.
How much do you think I have to pay to have a brain like yours?
You wouldn't though, because your brain is really good in different ways.
Like, yeah, true, but it is so interesting because, like, rotors, for example, like staff rotors, honestly, it is like long algebra. I can't do it. It just doesn't function. You know, if you said to me, oh, Sally works from 12:30 till 4:30, how many hours does Sally work? I would literally be like 12:30 till 1:30, 1:30 till 2:30, 2:30 till 3:30, 3:30 till 4:30. Sally's working for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't just do that. And like we've been having our appraisals this week, which is a word I hate, by the way. Appraisal on the horrible word. Appraisal. You sound like you're about to get fired, you know? Yeah. So anyway, we've been having some sit down chats with my lovely team on the yard, and you know, we've been looking at the rotor and this, that, and the other. And like Lucy, who works for me, her brain is just like, yeah. So what we need is da da da, and I'm like, what?
I know.
How did you get from here to there? Thank goodness I have people around me that do have brains like this. But it's magical that you've created this thing, mate. You're fantastic.
Yeah.
I am so impressed. So can you give us some of this data? Is it relevant to talk about actually the numbers at this point?
Yes. So I'll give you the kind of overview. So there were 813 form submissions from the UK in 2025. There's been 32 in 2026. I haven't really been talking about it because I've been a little bit overwhelmed with life, but it's there. And I think actually we linked to it in the show notes, so you can go and fill your own out. And it's completely anonymous. I've literally no idea who you are unless you add some feature in your response, which obviously people don't. So the biggest shift has been in farrier costs. So interestingly, in 2025, the most common farrier bill. So actually, I'll break down how I ask people a bunch of questions and they have drop downs of amounts. So for example, farrier, how much do you spend? 0 to £25, £25 to 50, and so on and so on. The reason I don't let people do exact numbers is because it makes actually figuring out averages really difficult. It was for me when I was doing it manually, so I don't do that. Anyway, in 2025, 26%, which was the highest amount of people, were spending £25 to £50 on their farrier. Now, 28% of people in 2026 are spending £50 to £75 on their farrier. And there was a really big jump in people spending £100 to £125, which doubled from 9.3 in 2025 to 22% in 2026. Granted, because there's a much smaller sample size of people, like much smaller number of people who filled out forms in 2026, that might be a little bit skewed. But it feels to me very reflective, like everything's more expensive. And that is also, go on.
Oh, wouldn't it be cool if all of the people that are listening today went and filled out the Equestrian Money Diary?
I mean, it would, like I said, the data is open, it's free, it's available. I really should do more videos with the aggregated data. I think maybe I'll start doing that. But I think it's very reflective of the economy we're in, because also DIY is holding steady. It's at 44% of all people who filled out the form in 2025 and 2026, but full livery is down. So there was, in 2025, there was 12% doing full livery and 11% doing part livery. And in 2026, it's only 5.6%. So it's almost halved. And part livery has climbed to 14%. And you can totally see. And again, the definition of part and full livery is up to the responder. But for me, that probably suggests that people who were maybe doing 7-day livery have dropped down to 5-day livery, for example, or and that assisted DIY is another option, which I think again is like is a sign of the times. And grass livery has also jumped 2%, so I think people are feeling it a little bit because obviously livery is probably the biggest cost in your horse costs. So yeah, that's very interesting. I will look. There's lots of other bits,
update.
But there we go. I'll do a quarterly update, but you can go and read the data.
Yeah, speaking of data, I was fortunate enough to have a shoot with Equilibrium, and we did a cool series of videos. Well, they were one of our first sponsors, weren't they?
Yeah.
They do very cool things, and they've done some really good science on things. And we talked about their head collars. They've got this amazing head collar. This is not an advert, called the Stella head collar, and basically it's
Harley wears that
head collar. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're bloody great, because literally yesterday Belle was out. Belle, who has pole sensitivity historically, she's got a scar on the back of her head, and I don't know where it came from. It was there before I got her. She stepped on her rope, and literally she just stepped on a rope, pulled her head up, and it was like a moment of moment of pressure, and the head collar was just on the ground, and she's just stood there looking at us. Now, obviously, you could argue that in certain situations you don't want your head collar to do that, but I personally always want my head collar to do that, no matter what.
I will say, I don't take it to shows because I'm afraid of that happening in the middle of a lorry park, and then I have a loose horse who also has no head collar on. But I do think it's great when we're at home or when they're in the field.
Have you ever seen a horse get stuck in a head collar and pull until something snaps? Have you ever seen that happen?
No. Have you?
I have. Yeah, loads. Like,
they keep pulling.
Yeah. So, like in a lorry, for example, we've got these tie-up rings in the lorry, and like Blondie, for example, when we first did loading with her, I had like tied her up, and she was at a good place and she was calm, and then she suddenly wasn't, and she pulled back. And we've got these clever tie-up rings that pull out the wall. But that happened before the leather head collar snapped, before the string snapped. The tie-up ring pulled out of the polycarbonate wall or whatever it's made out of, because it's designed to, but she broke a piece of plastic. And like, if I was to pull on that tie-up ring myself, it wouldn't, there was a good amount of force. And I've seen horses get their head collars stuck on things like and like bolts or things in the door frame. And when you were talking about data, there was some really interesting data that Equilibrium told me about, that we spoke about in one of the pieces of content that will be rolled out in their so through their social media. So if you're interested, go and give them a follow, because it's not just about their products, it's actually science-based research. Were you going to say something before I said something?
Yeah, well, only the other thing that, and I do this, we have this on the yard, most people's string is too thick on their tie-ups, and actually your string is not meant to be your whole baling twine. You're actually meant to cut several, because baling twine's obviously made up of individual layers of string, right? You're meant to cut several of those so that if the horse were to pull back, it would actually snap. If it doesn't, if you pull and reasonably think, even with 20% more force, this wouldn't snap, it's not going to snap when a horse pulls back either, and then it defeats the object of having string. So it's something I think about a lot. I did read that somewhere, and my own string is too thick. I've just thought that, but it's just something to think about.
It definitely is. Well, it's also something to think about is what we tie our horses up in, because if you were tying Harley up in his Stella head collar, fear not, the piece of Velcro would. And the lovely thing about that is they say that if it pulls free 10 times, you should replace the Velcro. But did you know that you can literally just replace that bit of Velcro? You don't have to replace the whole head collar.
Good with stuff like that.
Isn't that great? Yeah. Like, you don't have to go and buy a new head collar. You're not putting a head collar in landfill, which is, by the way, where your head collars will end up. Your children's head collar when you were 12 is in landfill. Or I don't know where else, in the bottom of a muck heap somewhere. Anyway, here are the facts, and it is very interesting. So there was a study of over 5,600 riders and horse owners, and they found that 31% had experienced a head collar related injury. 31. A third.
Wow. Not even incident, injury.
Yeah. That's nearly 1 in 3. Even more, this is from a website called Equiteam, who have commented on the study. That's nearly 1 in 3. Even more alarming, 134 incidents involved fractures. Like fractured necks, fractured atlases, God knows. And 167 out of that 5,600 lost their lives.
I'm gaping.
Yeah. The most common situations where injuries occurred were tying up. 70% of injuries happened when the horse was tied up. In the field, 20% of accidents happened while horses were wearing a head collar at liberty. Handling accidents, some incidents also resulted in human injuries, 1 in 7. Yep. Because if you are ever near a horse having a panic and you try and help, there's this thing that happens. If you imagine a horse has pulled back to the point of tension, the next port of call is to swing their head left and right. So they pull back and then they go like that to try and break free. It's really awful. It's really awful. So there is also some facts, and I don't know if it's going to be here in this, but there was something that was spoken about, which was the weight you have to put behind a nylon head collar for it to snap, and it is far heavier than your horse. So if you were to, this is awful image, but if you were to hang up, physically lift the weight of a horse with a nylon head collar, it still wouldn't break.
Yeah.
And that is really,
did they compare that to leather? Because I know, not because I think leather is better than a breakable one, but people are like, myself included, they're like, I don't travel in nylon, I travel in leather, because leather's supposed to break before nylon would, but I don't know.
Well, I've experienced many a horse standing on their reins and it's snapping the cheek piece very quickly. Leather does break. but in his leather head collars tend to break under pressure more easily than synthetic ones, making them a safer choice in case of emergency. Saying this, though, it's very much depends on the quality and type of leather. So don't, yes, leather is safer, but I was thinking, about what you said about Harley in a
Show environment?
Show environment.
Yeah.
Is you would probably be still safer with your Stella head collar, which is what he would be tied to, but you could, I don't know.
I guess, to be honest, right, if playing this out, if you had a horse who was in because we always think, oh, well, they'd break away and then they'd run. But actually, a lot of the time, the panic builds because they can't break away. Like, if they panic because a tractor goes by, or I'm making this up, if you were in the Stella head collar, it literally would be pull back, break, and they'd probably be like, oh, okay. Whereas, and then they'd be loose, but actually they probably wouldn't go anywhere, maybe. Whereas I feel like if the tractor's still going and they're panicking and they're panicking and they're panicking, and then it suddenly breaks, then they probably would canter off. I don't know.
Off a bit.
But I say that, having also still made the choice not to take a breakable head collar to a show. But I don't know. Maybe I should. This has scared me a bit.
Well, I just think it's very much food for thought. And I was having a conversation with somebody, and we were talking, it was yesterday, I had Tom Broadbridge, lovely farrier Tom, and Rika from the Hoof School. They came and visited. It was very cool.
Nice.
And we were doing some content for Tom's new hoof boots, which is really, really cool. My goodness me, that man's got a clever brain to have designed those things. But we were talking about it, and Rika said, for such an affordable swap, it is mad. Like, your head collar is probably one of the cheapest pieces of equipment you own.
And they're really smart. They look really nice.
Lovely. They do the kind of synthetic leather ones. They do the nylon ones. All of my own horses have them now. A lot of the liveries that I see are starting to have them. And I just think it's absolutely it's a no-brainer. You could, if I said to you, for £25.78, you could swap your head collar out to one that has this quick release element, and you can have that head collar forever. This head collar will literally last you forever. I've had some for a couple of years, for however long we've been doing the podcast for, because they were very kind enough to gift us them. And they haven't pulled away. They haven't had 10 instances of being pulled apart. But they look great. And I just think it was just when we were talking about data, I was really in awe of those facts, and I thought, you know what, let's talk to people about it, because I think it's important.
Yeah, I love that. I actually, you jogged my memory. I have a very cute video of Harley. I was showing how the head collar breaks. So it's me and him loose in the school, and he's just asleep. And so I just pull on the tab and it falls away from his face, and he just doesn't move.
Well, that's really interesting you say that, because when I was there with Equilibrium, I pulled it apart myself, and I was like, oh, that was quite easy. Yeah. And what they said is the way that they tested them is when you put the Velcro up against something. So when it's up against the horse's head, it creates a friction that means it does require a bit more force.
Well, I think it's the pulling downwards, isn't it? Basically,
exactly.
As opposed to outwards. Yeah, agreed. Nice.
Anyway, I just thought that was a good fact to share. So we wanted to talk a bit about badminton, didn't we? Because that's been
badminton and Bramham. Because I had the
eventing
privilege of going to the Bramham Media Day, which was really cool for Bramham horse trials, because it's really nice to have these horse trials inviting creators to behind the scenes and stuff, and it was really amazing. They invited us into the house, and we met the owner of Bramham, and then they had sit downs with Andy Heffernan, who is a Olympic rider in his own right, the course designer for Bramham, also the assistant course designer for badminton. He's the Dutch team coach. You had David Evans, who has built courses for Tokyo and Hong Kong at Olympics, and travelled internationally teaching people how to do this stuff. And then they had, these incredible riders, and it was just the absolute cream of the crop. And they showed us the course as it was being built, and we had these Q&As, and it was really cool. And one thing that stuck in my head that I thought was really interesting, because you and I were talking about this a little bit, and I haven't told you this, is Andy Heffernan was talking about how he's changed the course quite a lot this year. because he took over the course building or the course designing from Ian Stark, and he wanted to put his own stamp on it. And Bramham is known as quite a hilly track. And he said, I've tried to take some of the hills out of the start and the end, because actually, if you're trying to get a horse to the Olympics, as opposed to just like, I think he said Olympics or championship level, you actually need a horse that's a little bit flashier, but has less of the sort of thoroughbred energy. I'm absolutely butchering what he said, but basically he's saying, and I want those horses to come to Bramham as well. So I've tried to take a little bit of the hills out to give ourselves the opportunity to get a wider field of horses in here that aren't just the really fast thoroughbreds that can manage the hills. I mean, it is actually, that interview clip is on my Instagram on the carousel, and also will be on my YouTube, so you can watch him actually say it. But that was the gist of it, and I thought that was really interesting in terms of the future of event horses.
I think, that sounds like they're really thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know, rather than it. I think this is the thing sometimes, like, you can look from the outside at these big events and you can think, oh, it's too tough. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's da-da-da. And the reality is these people are absolute masters of what they're doing.
He literally said, first of all, he said, I'm using way more frangible pins than I have ever before. I think we should use them more. And he was talking about how they literally know every undulation on that parkland, on that estate. And he was like, we are thinking about the wear and tear of the horses. Inevitably, at the top level, you're thinking about how many runs, where can we take some of the wear and tear out of the legs and the run? And I just think, yeah, to your point, it can look really challenging, but these people, they love the sport, they love the horses, and they are trying to think what is enough of a challenge for the riders, for the horses, without it being impossible or unkind, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting, and I'm glad that there is welfare is at the forefront as such.
For sure.
You know, it's horse first, sport second in some ways.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to take a moment to talk about one of the sponsors of this episode, the Hoof School. Now, I was actually lucky enough to meet Rika yesterday from the Hoof School. And, well, I've met her before, but she came to my yard, and it was just a fascinating conversations that we had. And it really reminded me of the importance of this sort of learning. Now, I don't believe that there is very much learning on the internet about these sort of topics, really in depth, properly investigated, properly invested in, and the Hoof School is absolutely that. Rika and I were discussing the possibility of me setting up a track system, and this is something that fills me with joy and a bit of fear, because I don't know enough to be able to do it confidently yet, but I do feel, and I'm starting to understand, that this might be something very important to me, as I have some horses who are grass sensitive. And I think the point that I wanted to talk about is not because I've got all of the answers, but in fact because I don't have all of the answers, but I would really like to have more of them. The Hoof School has started to fill a gap for me in my knowledge, and it feels incredibly reassuring to have that opportunity. I believe our horses come to teach us and to show us and to guide us, and for me, understanding their feet, learning about their bodies, learning about the importance of what their hooves mean in terms of the rest of their body has become a really important part of my healing of horses and the care of all of the horses in my yard. I think if you have been inspired at all by the conversations that we've had around feet, I would really implore you to go and check out the Hoof School. It is straightforward. It's kind of one of those courses where you can take as much as you need. You may find that some of it goes over your head, and that's okay, it's more complex, or that there are sections where you think, gosh, that was something I really needed to learn. The Hoof School has become a really important part of my week. I spend some time every week just sitting down, doing some learning, because I feel like I owe it to my horses. You know the phrase, no hoof, no horse. It is really real, whether your horse wears shoes or not. Please consider educating yourself, because you can save yourself a lot of time and stress and money in the long run by being really educated on this topic, because everything starts with the horse's feet. Their whole body is affected by the balance of their feet, and if you can educate yourself, then you can start to advocate for your horse in a better way. You can use the code TEL10 for 10% off the first 2 courses. And maybe if we partner with them again, more courses will be involved in that. But I promise that's a lot to get you started with. So TEL10 and the Hoof School. Hopefully you find that helpful.
And badminton, I felt, was very much like this year. They had a lot more, well, I don't know if it was a lot more frangible pins, but it felt more obvious to me. And there was one jump that was, I can't remember, it was like a step and then a bounce up to a house, I think it was, or a jump and then a bounce to a house. It was up anyway, up. And they talked a lot about how this house was, what did they describe it as?
Collapsible.
There was like collapsible. And someone actually, their horse sort of, it was really unfortunate. They didn't quite get their back legs onto the step, so they physically couldn't take off because it was a bounce, and so they sort of leaned on the house and it immediately collapsed. And I thought that was great. And I actually thought the ground jury were pretty on it this year. I saw more riders pulling up and deciding not to do the run. I really liked Harry Mead's interview. Actually, he did an interview, and I can't remember which one of his mares he was talking about because he rode like 3 times on the track, but he talked about this lovely mare, and he was like, you know, she's quite introverted and she's quite sensitive, and I really wanted to go really slow with her and take a completely different approach, and the owners really trusted me to do that. And so every run that we've done has been really relaxed and just easy and not about anything else. And now she's come here and she's just flowing. And I just loved the words he used. I thought it was really lovely. And
that's interesting.
Yeah.
There was one incident that made it onto social media that I saw about somebody who was pulled up by the ground jury.
Yes.
And yeah. I went and watched some of the clips. I'm going to be totally blunt, I didn't watch any of badminton.
Yeah. It's just okay, because I watched like all of the cross country and the top 20 at least in the show jumping, so I feel like we've got a balance.
Yeah.
But yeah, that incident.
I just didn't have time, basically. Well, to be totally honest with you, but it was interesting because I saw this thing talking about it and about the ground jury pulling this person up, and the person obviously was upset that they had been stopped.
Yeah.
I'll give my 2 pennies worth in a moment, but what were your thoughts on this?
So, completely transparently, when I saw them going round, I was a bit like, oh, because they got pulled up for being out of control, basically. Dangerous, out of control. And as they were going round, I do remember thinking, oh, that's quite, they're really going. And there was a moment where the horse comes out of the water and they're sort of trying to bring them back, and the horse's neck tucks right in as they're obviously having a bit of a fight, basically. And there was part of me that was like, oh, that in my instinct feels a little bit hairy. There was at one point where the rider had to kind of circle back on themselves because they'd like gone too far. And that was the sort of out of control thing. And so I did notice it. But of course, part of you's like, well, I don't ride at the top level. Maybe just a bit keen. They're going to get them back. They're going to find their rhythm. But then, of course, when the ground jury did pull them up, I remember being like, oh, okay, interesting that they've pulled them up. And I think the commentary team were a bit surprised. But when I gave it a day or two and I went back and I watched the clips, I was like, fair enough. I think that's fair. And especially because you've not only got the riders, you've also got the crowd. And I think this horse was really quite powerful and strong. And I think the ground jury, I think somebody said in the notes, there were 3 separate instances that they clocked before they made the decision. Don't absolutely quote me on that, but I think that was the bar. So yeah.
I think the thing is, in these moments, I watch the videos, and the horse was to me, and this is just my opinion, please don't come to my house with a pitchfork. The horse was essentially bolting. And then being pointed at obstacles, and there were times where he was like, this horse was like half not taking off behind, and
yes, it was quite frantic.
It had gone very tight in the back, and the neck was, and it looked not good. And there have been, fatalities in eventing, and I really do think that they are the people in control are like, we've got to not let that happen. Yeah. We've got to make sure that if we see things that are not safe, we do something about it. We don't wait till after the fact to say something, because we can't have that kind of like spotlight on it.
Yeah.
And the person Ross Cantor, she won badminton,
Yes.
spoiler alert. And the way, watching that, it's a
Unbelievable.
masterclass. It is a different league. And she's going around in a flash strap and a snaffle, right? And I reckon that she probably could do it without the flash strap. I don't know, I have my own opinions on nosebands, but my point is, it looks easeful. And she said in an interview with Pippa Funnell, she said, he gives me time. She said something so wonderful. She said, and it felt very relevant in comparison to this person who was pulled up, he takes me to every fence without being fast. And he looks built for it. This horse, he looks capable. He looks older-fashioned to me. When you watched Mary King, Once Upon a Time, going around Badminton, William Fox Pitt on those horses that did it in a really stylish way, he is that. And I think that's, she has won it now 3 times on the same horse. And that is because her system is horse first. She turns her horses out. They live out. They are considered horses before athletes. I would love to meet her. I would love to go to her yard. I feel so empowered by the way she does things and how she is showing what an athlete can be. And I think, to be honest, I think there should be less horses doing the sport at that top level, because there are less horses that are that capable. That's the reality. He is 1 in a million. Oh, God, what a cliche. But he really is, because his body is designed different. His brain is like that. And then it is been nurtured by her and her team in this amazing way. Oh, and then to say that she's had a baby in February, like, crikey. Yeah. The whole thing, it just is inspirational. It gives me goosebumps to think about the possibilities of being and having that kind of a partnership with a horse like that. To be able to do that in such fine style is, I cannot begin to tell you how, I want to swear, hard that is. Like, good
they were
God.
Sorry. They were amazing. Everything was with her body, like, they were so in tune. And she said in her post interview, she was like, I wasn't sure I'd be able to do it because, I had a baby 3 months ago and I don't feel at the same level of fitness as I did before. She was like, I feel fine, but I wouldn't have done it if it hadn't been on Walter. And she said he's very light in the gallop and he always takes me to the fence, but without pulling me or tanking me in. And like, she's just her body moves and he comes back to her. It's just, I actually like welled up a little bit when she won the show jumping, because I was just like, this is just phenomenal. And it was just so lovely and so nice to see. And the other thing that actually really brought me joy, which I only saw after actually on social media, was Caroline Powell. I don't know if you saw this. She had quite a difficult day. She fell off one of her horses. She retired the other. And on her way back on the one horse, they stopped at the ice cream van. And I was like, she's just a little girl on her pony. And I just thought that was so nice. And I thought that also is great ambassadorship for the sport. Like, I just thought that was really cute.
And I think in these moments, like, we must be inspired by this. We must. Let's look at what Roz is doing. What is she doing differently that enables this with this horse? Okay, yes, he is obviously a very, very capable athlete, but I don't believe that it's only because he's a capable athlete.
Yeah.
I believe it is because of the way he is loved, the way he is cared for, the way he lives his life, the way all of the things that she is doing behind the scenes, I believe, are the things that make this magical potion of capability that allows her to do that. Because, Badminton did a wonderful job with their marketing, and they had Laura Collette and this lovely little girl explaining what eventing is, and Laura called it triathlon on a horse.
Yes.
And if you imagine how hard it would be to be at the very, very top level of the sport as a triathlete, but then you've got to imagine that you've got to get a horse with the brain the size of a walnut / small apple that is using its fingernails of its middle finger to move at the same level as you, to be your partner, to carry. This is
without being able to directly talk to them.
Without being able to directly say, so what we're going to do today is we're going to go and it is masterful, and it can be a fine art. And I hope that we get to keep watching top sport. I didn't watch it partially because sometimes I think I find watching some of it hard.
Yeah.
And the same way I, find lots of things hard these days. The internet is a difficult place to be some of the time. But it's proof that it can be done in a beautiful, wonderful, harmonious, glorious way that cherishes the horses. And, he'd have been out in the field 2 days before, overnight. And I think if you are a professional and you're listening to this, take note. Come on. We can do better. You don't have to keep your horse locked up in a stable anymore. You really don't. I promise. You can give them community. You can give them friendship. You can give them this way of doing things. Because look, she's done it 3 times. Come on. Yeah. Put your horse in the field.
Let's hope we continue to see it throughout the event season. Exciting. Oh, yeah, that's lovely. Cool. That feels like a lovely little note to end on. Let us all go and enjoy our Walters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And our ice creams, for that matter.
And our ice creams. Yeah. I hope I can come with a little bit more of a positive update next time I see you.
Likewise. This was good.
Yeah, it was good. So this morning, while I was sitting next to the radiator with my little kittens on my lap, I asked Instagram whether you guys had any questions for us. And I have had a question. So they said there seems to be a trend for barefoot trimmers to let hooves grow to be flippers in the name of rehab. Now, what they're talking about is there's a bit of a school of thought in barefoot trimming of letting the laminitis problem grow out in a really fairly traumatic looking way. Now, as I said, I had Tom here yesterday, and we were talking about a couple of our horses who have slightly longer toes, and he explained it to me in very, very plain terms. So your horse is walking on their toenail, right? Middle finger, your swearing finger. That's the finger that they're walking on, right? I'm doing a little downward swear. Do you have nail varnish on your nails right now?
Yeah, it's yellow.
Okay, if you don't, as a listener, have nail varnish on your fingernails, I want you to do this with me. I want you to take your right thumbnail and I want you to put it under your another fingernail on the other hand. Now, Rhea, I'm going to show you this because you've got fingernails. Can you see the colour of my nail, do you think? Is it too blurry?
It's a little bit blurry, but are we showing it going like red? Is that the...
Yes.
Right.
So what happens is when I push up on my fingernail that is sticking out, very close to the tip of my fingernail, it goes red. But if you look closely at my coronet band, my cuticle, it turns white.
Yeah.
And what that is showing is that excess force on the toe is diminishing blood supply at the coronet band. And this was just what Tom was talking to me about. Okay. So he was saying how it's so important that we have that rolling breakover of the toe, because otherwise you are essentially diminishing the blood supply further up. Now, many schools of thought, maybe this isn't totally accurate, but this is the school of thought that the hoof school talk about. And I go a lot on feel when I see feet.
Yeah.
What feels good to the horse gives me a good feeling in my body. And these longer toe things is does not feel good to me. And it's very interesting, these different schools of thought. So I just wanted to explain that because I don't have the whole answer on it. But I think it's interesting that we're seeing these sort of different ways of doing things. And this is why having something like the Hoof School is so valuable, because you can educate yourself. You can then learn what your horse's foot is telling you and what you can see and go through it on your own. So I'm going to move on to another question. I'm looking at a potential job with horses, but prior to owning had said I wouldn't work with horses and own a horse, so that I didn't get fed up or feel like I've had too much horses and been out in the weather too much, more so in winter. My question is, how do you work with horses and find time and enjoyment in your own still? That's really interesting. Have you got any thoughts on that? So like basically working with horses and having a horse at the same time.
I mean, I probably wouldn't. I think some people are not made for it. I don't know. Well, I'll say some people aren't made for it. I did work with horses and then have my own. Well, it wasn't my own. It was a share horse or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like only you can answer that. Like, you either find time for them and you really want to do it and you're passionate and you can. I do think when you've got your own horse, you've got your own goals and things that you want to do that are very separate from going through the motions with horses that you work with. But I think only you can answer that, whether you have a real passion in another area. Like, I love my career. I wouldn't want to do anything else. So, it makes my time with my horse even more special. But I don't know. Sometimes I dream about working with horses, but usually it's when it's June, July, August.
Yeah, it is hard. And I think it is important for me. I think actually seeing them as two separate things is important. Yep. Because I think I struggle, and that's what I'm seeing having the horses at home, is that I'm struggling to differentiate between the work, doing the work and doing my own horses. So There we go. Maybe we will open things up a bit more to questions another day. It would be nice if you guys do have questions for us. We could do a little question special, maybe a bit of a segment, because I didn't get loads of questions. I have actually got a voice note, but I've not listened to it, so I feel scared to listen to it on the podcast. So we will leave questions, I think, for another day, because it's quite late in the evening actually for us, and we both need to go and eat our dinner, don't we, really?
We do,
to be honest.
But thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.